Welcome to Shorr Solutions, the podcast. I'm your host, Jay Shorr. I'm the CEO and founder of Shorr Solutions, a national and award-winning consulting firm assisting aesthetic and surgical practices with their operational, administrative, and financial success. I have an amazing team of practice management experts and clients across the U.S., and as an industry expert with firsthand experience owning a multi-million-dollar cosmetic dermatology and plastic surgery practice, listen in as I lend you my expertise and best tips to successfully manage and grow your aesthetic practice. I will also be bringing in guests along the way, so get ready to be equipped to operate your aesthetic practice strategically and profitably. Welcome to Shorr Solutions, the podcast. Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Shorr Solutions, the podcast, and I'm your host, Jay Shorr. This is episode number 111. Can you believe we're up to 111 podcasts already? And today, our podcast is going to speak about how to effectively utilize a lead management tool. And I have two very, very special guests with me today. First, our Director of Client Development, Suarez. And secondly, our Business Analyst and Client Success Manager, Cristian Devoz. It truly is my honor to have my own La Familia, my own team members on, because, usually I'll bring on a guest, or usually I will do this by myself and have our production team finish it. But because what we spoke about in episode number 110 about a lead management tool and a customer relationship management tool, we had Denise Lee, who is our Director of Operations, and she was my special guest. So this is great because who better to handle and speak about lead management tools than my team who use and work with lead management tools every day. Anna, if you could be so kind, say hello to everybody.
Yes, hello everyone. Like Jay mentioned, my name is Ana Suarez, and I am so happy to be here today and kind of talk a little bit more about lead management and the process.
Good. Cristian, say hello.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Jay, for having us over. We love being able to spend this time with you and to talk about this important topic.
Wonderful. So let's get started. A lead management tool. First of all, what is a lead management tool? Quite frankly, a lead management tool is some kind of a device, some type of technology that allows you to know when you get a lead, what do you do with it? And through the whole conversion of the conversion cascade, stay tuned for Conversion Cascade 2.0. It's everything from the market to the lead, all the way through to the sale, conversion, and revenue. So Anna, first question is, why should you be using a lead management tool?
So that's a great question, Jay. It's very interesting because I see our clients and all of the practices that we work with putting a lot of effort, time, money regarding their marketing. But then when we talk with them about lead management, what is their process, what tools do they use, many times they don't really have anything in place, or they have something very minimal at the practice. So lead management and tracking is super important because after you do all of the marketing efforts, all of the promotions, the ad campaigns, we want to make sure that whenever there's a call, whenever there's a digital message, or, even a referral, we're tracking who they are, where they come from, and also kind of all of their information, first name, last name, what procedures they're looking to get done at the practice. So that way we know who's interacting with us, what are they interested on, and how can we service them better. And most importantly, make sure that we get that appointment on the books.
Wonderful. Cristian, how do you increase the efficiency and the productivity with a lead management tool?
Well, the first step is definitely deciding which management tool are you going to use. And we have seen a lot of practices, especially when they are starting, that are using spreadsheets on Excel. And there is nothing wrong with that. I actually love Excel. I'm a fan of Excel. And we actually have our own spreadsheet that we give our clients when they are in that initial stage. However, as you grow, you will soon find out that you really need to have something that is more robust. And that's where we have to look at different potential CRM that you can use. For example, there is Salesforce, there is HubSpot, and there is a lot of them out there that you can totally customize to your practice. But what you want to make sure is that when you are choosing your CRM, that is actually something that is going to be customizable for you and something that you can actually utilize to its fullest. A lot of these CRMs might be too robust for your practice if it is a small one, or they might be too small if you're already a big practice. So you have to make sure that you're choosing the right one for you.
Great. Christian, as a follow up to that, a good relationship management tool, these lead management, provides valuable insights and analytics. Can you expand a little bit? What types of analytics and insights does it provide that you can use? And then I'll go over to Anna and follow up with a question with her.
Definitely. You really want to make sure that it provides you numbers and analytics when it comes to the customer or the patient journey. We're talking about, okay, how many leads are coming in? That's one of the analytics that we want to look at. How many people are calling? How many people are sending messages through your website, or they are emailing you? How are they reaching out to you? That's another one that you want to make sure that you're tracking. Are they coming from social media? Are they coming from your website? So the lead source is very important, because then you know where most of the people are coming from, and you can target those specific platforms to make sure that you are maximizing those efforts and attracting as many potential patients as you can. And then the other thing that you want to track is, after they call, are they booking those consults? That's very, very important, because that's going to give you your conversion ratio from that lead to a consult. And then how many of those patients are actually showing up to a consult. So there is another conversion ratio you have to look at and make sure that you're tracking in those platforms. And usually what they do is that they have this dashboard. And in the dashboard, you can see all the different numbers, you can see graphics, and you can analyze the information. And the numbers tell a story. I always say that when we're talking to our clients, there is always a story behind the numbers. And when you look at them, you can figure out what is going wrong and how can you change it to ensure that you are attracting as many people as possible. And then from then on, you want to track the patient journey as they continue to return to your practice. How do you keep them coming back for more procedures, for more treatments? And that's the wheel that we call the conversion cascade. So that's what you want to track, and the analytics that you want to keep in mind when you're selecting your CRM.
Great. Anna, if you can, give us some information about the communication and the follow-up. And we were speaking about the wheel.
Yes, that's super important, especially following up with our patients or prospective patients, making sure that if they call, they had a question about maybe the provider, his or her experience, that we're able to follow up with them, we're able to communicate with them, and also any kind of like concerns that they might have, we're able to stay in contact with them and make sure that the appointment is booked, because that's the reason why they're calling. They're calling because they have a need. They want to see if they can get a procedure done. And so as long as we answer the questions and we provide what they're looking for, then they'll be able to like book that consult and then come to the practice and get to know the provider and the rest of the team. So lead management is crucial when it comes to like follow-ups and to the communication with our prospective patients. In addition to that, not many times we're able to book them right away. So we want to make sure that we're adding their information to like email marketing campaigns that we may have, newsletters, so that we can keep growing and nourishing that communication with the prospective patients. As you all know, there's many options nowadays. And so the consumer is researching and comparing, what the competition is doing, how do the other practice do their consultations and whatnot. So it's important to have that constant and consistent communication with the prospective patient.
Okay, so we spoke about this is before the patient comes in for the consult, and hopefully, because every practice suffers from no-shows. Unbelievable. It's kind of like interviewing for a new staff member and you set it up and the people don't show up for an interview. I never understand that one either. However, now let's say that they did come in for the consult, Anna. All right. The follow-up, the continue. When do you stop calling the patient?
Never. Really, you just continue talking and calling the patient and following up to make sure that they keep coming back for more. And so you really don't do that unless they ask you to, like, hey, we're good now, could you please stop calling me, or I already went ahead and I scheduled that next appointment, and so thank you so much for following up. And I wanted to add to that this is not about being stealthy or anything like that. This is also about the patient experience and the patient service. And so that's critical, especially nowadays when there's so many practices offering the same services, procedures. So we want to stand out by going that extra step and not only making sure that they schedule their next consultation or their next appointment, but that, we're being helpful to them, and we're like kind of like reminding them, okay, do you have any questions? Okay, we're all set up for the next appointment, and kind of like taking it to that next step. And the patients will definitely remember that you did take that extra step and that you're very helpful.
It's funny that you corrected yourself between clients and patients,
Yes.
yet we have clients who refer to their patients as clients. And I guess sometimes the difference, I look at them, once you walk into any type of a medical facility, even if it's a med spa, I think of them as patients.
Yes.
However, many people only think of a patient when it's really medical or surgical and not aesthetic cosmetic like in a med spa. They'll refer to them as clients, which are like hairdressers and nail and mani and pedi. But in our worlds, medical spas, not day spas, I always refer to them as patients. There is no right and there is no wrong. All right. Cristian, what are the key features of a lead management tool? And I'm asking you this because you took the lead in creating our spreadsheet and then coming up with all kinds of dashboard metrics. So what are the key features of a good lead management tool?
Of course, that's a great question. There are several. If we can go one by one, I would say the first one is definitely having a good capture for those leads, making sure that you're collecting the data. And there are some softwares out there that can actually utilize AI. So if somebody is visiting your website, their information might be able to be captured by this AI feature, and it will provide you with that lead. There is also chats on the website that you can utilize where people can talk to you. And it's very, very important that if your staff is the one answering to these chats, they should do it immediately or as soon as possible, but they should be answered quickly because you don't want to lose those leads.
How quickly?
I mean, it shouldn't be more than an hour. It should be very, very quickly, immediately if possible, for them to communicate with that lead. So that is the initial feature that I would say needs to have, that ability to capture those leads. And then, of course, there is the lead distribution. So making sure that you're assigning your team with specific leads. So if you know that somebody is more of a hot lead, meaning that is more likely to convert, then you want to give that to your more experienced staff, those who have more experience in the practice, who know how to handle the patients and how to convert. You want to give those hot leads to these people. And then for that staff who's still learning, who might be new in their position, you can have them handle some of the other leads that are still maybe not quite there yet. And then as they continue to grow their skills, you can allow them to have more of those hot leads. But you definitely want to make sure you have a structure and a system for that, so that you're not missing opportunities when it comes to people who are really interested, who might be able to convert immediately. And then, of course, you want to have some sort of system in that CRM that allows you to score those leads. What do I mean by score the leads? It means that, let's say that somebody's interested in a facelift. That's going to be a high-end procedure that is going to probably bring in more potential revenue. So they are more of a priority than maybe the patient who's coming in just for a filler or for an injectable, right? So you want to make sure that you have some system that allows you to know the revenue potential from each individual lead. And then you can make sure that you're prioritizing those who are potentially going to bring more revenue to the practice. However, don't forget about the other ones, because then, of course, you don't want to miss these other opportunities, because a patient might come in initially for a Botox or for a D-sport, but later on, you don't know if you can convert into a procedure or a treatment. As they grow older, maybe they start seeing more wrinkles and they are, you know what? I want to get a facelift now, right? So you don't want to miss that opportunity either. But definitely have the structure in place so you know each individual lead what potential they have to bring into your practice.
So let's talk about the nurturing of that lead, okay? I always like to try to refer to it. I'll lead to Anna for a second. I always like to refer to that as kind of like a drip campaign. People hear the words, but they really don't know what that means. So you've spent all this money in your marketing to bring a patient in to at least make a phone call. And now you were fortunate enough, Anna, you were fortunate enough to be able to bring that patient in. Now what? What type of lead nurturing or drip campaign do we have and should you use?
Yes, that's very critical because now they're in and they have gotten to know the provider or the rest of the team. We want to make sure that we continue that type of communication with them. It just doesn't stop once they leave the practice. We call it the patient experience, right? Because we want to make sure that everybody's involved, everybody's engaged, from the physician to the medical assistant, also the director of first impressions, and that we are, we're being helpful, we're being responsive and even proactive. There's so many things in the medical world where we don't have to wait for our patients to ask for. We kind of like anticipate, they'll need the next procedure to be scheduled. So one of the things is that we want to make sure, especially if it's like some type of neurotoxin, injectables, that we make sure that before they leave the practice, we already have the next appointment schedule on the books and we don't miss that opportunity, because essentially we're doing two things. We're being effective because we're kind of like helping them be organized and reminding them like, hey, this is going to happen in the future. So let's just select a date today and put it on the books. And then also they can see how we're like, our experience, the customer service with them is amazing. And so they're going to be like, wow, it's so easy. It's so easy to like treat with so-and-so doctor because they are ahead of the curve. They're anticipating my needs. So as a regular customer, like what we do for some other things, whether it's like clothing or buying cars, whatever it may be, we're kind of like being proactive and just helping them with the entire process. So that's one of the things that I would highly suggest.
Yes, we're going to take a quick break and a slight intermission. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about our Conversion Cascade online course. With this self-guided and powerful course, you and your team will be able to master acquiring and retaining more patients. As a step-by-step sales funnel training, this course is designed to help you and your team attract more patients, convert calls to consults, convert consults to treatments and procedures, and keep patients coming back for more. Not only will our Conversion Cascade online course help to strengthen and develop your team's phone sales and customer service skills, it will also serve as a valuable onboarding training tool for each and every new team member. Plus, in the course, you'll receive downloadable marketing checklists, phone scripts, conversion tracking tools, and more. So why not sign up for the course today? It only takes less than 4 hours to complete, and you can finish at your own pace, and you'll have lifetime access. And as a special thank you for being our podcast listener, we're giving you 20% off. Just enter the discount code PODCAST to start saving today. Click the link in our show notes to sign up for the Conversion Cascade online course. Acquire and retain more patients right now. All right, Cristian, on the dashboard that you created, we talked about tracking the performance and the results. One thing is entering data, all right? Mm-hmm. But you created a dashboard where we're able to track performance and results. Share a little bit about how you did that and what that means.
Of course. So the dashboard, the way that it works is that as the staff is putting in the information, and it's very important that they do put in the information. That's the first step. Mm-hmm. You're going to get as much out of it as you put in. So make sure that you're always updating it, that you're putting in all these different people that are calling, all these different leads. You're putting them in, you're putting all the information. Now, what is going to happen is that I have put on some formulas in the dashboard that will allow you to know on a monthly basis and even on a yearly basis your conversion ratios. So you will be able to see all the leads that are coming in. You'll be able to see how many of those leads are converting, what's that percentage into a book consult. And then you will see that percentage from the book consult into a procedure. And then you can also see other things that maybe people forget about. Like, let's say that a patient calls and then you give them the quote, you have that conversation, but the patient says, let me talk to my husband or my wife, or let me think about it. And then what happens is that if you don't follow up with that patient, it's going to fall through the cracks and you are missing that opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is some parts in the dashboard where you can actually put in the status, and the status allows you to put in patient is thinking about it, or the patient is going to talk to his spouse or her spouse. And then the dashboard is going to show you how many of those people are in that category. So you'll be able to see in real time where you're at in each of those steps and where the patients are at if they are still not making a commitment. So then you can revisit it, go back to that specific patient and call that patient, or send a text or try to connect with them and follow up with them. Because if you don't follow up, the patient is going to go somewhere else because they're going to keep asking around until they find somebody where they feel comfortable. So you want to make sure that you are building that relationship with the patient and that you follow up with them either until they come to your practice or until they tell you, you know what, don't call me anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned a very interesting point. It's as good as the information that you put in it. You can't track what you don't enter. There's that age-old expression, garbage in, garbage out. So, if you don't put in all of the relevant information, you're not going to be able to get that, the information from the dashboard that you're really looking for. Anna, what are the best practices for using a lead management tool?
Well, there's many practices, but I would definitely say training your team, making sure that they know how is, whether it is like an Excel spreadsheet or whichever software you're using, because there's many of them out there and they all have different capabilities, and it comes down to analyzing what you really need for your practice, because sometimes we have practices that they're just like starting out, and then sometimes we have surgical practices that they have been in business for many years, and so the information will obviously be more complex. So once you have that CRM system, we want to make sure that you're also training your staff, because sometimes they don't have that experience or they might get a little bit overwhelmed. And so it's part of your responsibility that if you want to see your team be successful and you want to make sure that this is done correctly, you have to take the time, like we do, to work with our clients and make sure that they know how are these systems used and how they can help propel your business. So that's something very important, one of the practices. And then also analyzing the information and the metrics, because as Christian and UJ have mentioned, it's very important to enter the correct information, to make sure that we have the most up-to-date detailed information of what they like or the procedures or their age, date of birth, things like that. But most importantly, I would say is to like actually take some time, and go back and analyze it, even on a weekly basis. Just take a look at who has been calling, what have they been asking for, have we closed those calls, who do we need to follow up with, and then take a step back and just be like, well, you know what? We're seeing that maybe one of our patient care coordinators, their closing rates are not as high as like the other patient care coordinator that we have. How can we help them? What could we do here? And then those are the things that really help you to be more strategic instead of just like kind of like dancing around with different tactics that at the end of the day might not be working out for your practice. We're always evolving, just as we are as human beings. Same thing applies for the businesses.
Why does it always revert to training? Training, training, training. You know, Steve Jobs had a favorite line, or he had a line that I use a lot. And he said, somebody had said to him, actually, what happens if we train all of our team members and they leave? And Steve Jobs thought, stepped back for a second, and he said, what happens if we don't train our team and they stay? And we think about that is you don't want ill-effectively trained people that are going to hold you back. Training is an investment. It is not an expense. So folks, if you're listening to this, if you're watching me, you're going to know I always talk about training and safety. Training is so important because when you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. And anytime you start something new, you're going to get feedback. People like and are resistant to change. I love change, except in my pocket. If I can't fold it, I don't want to hold it. All right. But seriously, I like change because it's able to elevate us to the next level. In conclusion, Christian and Anna, Christian, I'll start with you first. What are the common mistakes and pitfalls to avoid when you're using a lead management system? We don't want to go and buy one and pick one up or create one, train our team, and then have a common mistake. Why? Let's try to avoid that from the very beginning.
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the lead scoring. You don't want to ignore those low scoring leads, and you want to make sure that you are reaching out to those patients as well. And you should reach out to them and follow up. Another common mistake is precisely that people don't follow up or they don't do it promptly enough. And in our recent most of data conversion cascade online course that is coming out very soon, we actually talked about that. How soon should you call the patient? And most of the answers, whether that's through the telephone that they called and you didn't get an answer and you're gonna call them back, or where that's that they reached out through the website and now you want to reach out back to them, the usual answer is it shouldn't take more than 2 hours. You should call them as soon as possible, but no more than 2 hours later, because then what's gonna happen is that they're gonna go somewhere else. Because if somebody is shopping around trying to find, a place where they can get their procedure done, they're not going to wait for you to answer to them. They're going to be asking several people. And whoever answers first, Jay always says the early bird catches the worm. And it's very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you're not overlooking those leads that might be low scoring, but you're also following up with them, because that's another mistake people make a lot. And then, of course, not utilizing all of the features that your software has. And it's very interesting. We were with a client a few weeks ago, and we were meeting with one of these vendors for a CRM software, and they were explaining all these features. And it was incredible to me just to look at all the things that they offer. And I just wonder how many of these features do actually the staff use? And many times the answer is going to be not even half of them. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't even we have Microsoft Teams and we have, all the Microsoft suite, but I don't use all of the products that Microsoft opens. I use Excel, I use Word, I may use PowerPoint, but there is a lot of other things that they have that I'm not using. And Jay always gives the example with Excel. A lot of people know how to enter data in Excel, but they don't necessarily know how to create a spreadsheet or how to put together formulas and how to connect one sheet with another. And all these things are more advanced, right? And so not everybody gets to know 100% of the tool. The same goes for the CRM. Don't underutilize it, especially if you're making a monetary investment into it. You want to make sure that you're making the best out of it. There is a lot of CRMs that have things like automations that allow you to send automatic reminders to patients. There are also things like integrations where you can connect with other platforms. Like if you have a platform that you use for email marketing, you can connect that so that you can get data from your email campaigns into the CRM software. And there is a lot of different features that people don't know about. So it's very important that you are familiarized with it, that you train your staff on it, and that you continually try to see what is out there and innovate. That's why having a team of consultants really helps, because we're always trying to stay on top of these things, and we provide coaching and training for our clients all the time, and we help them and their staff when it comes to lead management and making sure that they're properly trained to know how to handle them, how to have the proper phone skills. That's another mistake that we see a lot. People have the great CRM and they have all this data, but the main problem is that they're not converting because they don't have the phone skills. They don't have that real cartoon experience. So we need to make sure that you're training your staff and that they know how to convert. That's very, very important.
All right, Anna, I'd like to conclude with this question. You mentioned it earlier. Christian mentioned it earlier. Analyze. You get all this wonderful data. We have all these clients, and we ask them about, let's analyze your website data. Let's analyze your lead scoring data. Let's analyze and see all the reports that you get for how many calls came in. And we'll listen to these phone calls, and then we want to see how many converted. And then if they call their vendors or us even, and we've trained them on everything, they'll say to you, well, my vendor does that. They give us all that data. Yet You'll ask them anything about the data and they have no clue.
Exactly.
So if you can share in conclusion about the analytics of the data that you're getting, if you're getting it from a properly organized system.
Yes, definitely. Listen, you could have the best CRM, Excel spreadsheet, 20,000 people working for you. But if at the end of the day, you or your practice administrator, your practice manager, you guys don't take the time to take a look at your data, the metrics, and not only look at it, but analyze it. Like, it's kind of like, what are these numbers telling me? What are some patterns that we're finding, the trends, and that is actually what is going to tell you what needs to be updated, changed, or improved. And so it's critical, it's very important, because at the end of the day, we put all of these systems in place, from your marketing to your lead management tracking and your different systems and all of the training, because you want to see results. And the only way that you know whether you're having the results or you're moving closer to your targets, your goals, your KPIs, is taking a look at the data and just being like, okay, what is this really telling me? It's kind of like a new language, but after a while, you'll get used to taking a look at those numbers, those KPIs, and then you'll be like, okay, am I getting closer or farther away from my goal? And what can we do about this? And then the other thing that is super important, and it goes back to the points that we've made here, is the use of technology and also training your team, because, we cannot do things by ourselves. There's people who have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. And so we have to maximize that. We have to make them involved and engage with the process so that they understand the bigger picture, and so they're able to be more engaged and even provide feedback, because they are the ones kind of like, the director of first impressions. They're answering the phone calls. They're kind of like getting the same questions or concerns. And so they'll be able to provide you that feedback that, as a practice administrator, practice owner, physician, you might not have it, because that's not really your job day in and day out. So we have to maximize these things, as well as like the technology, automating as much as you can, and just kind of like double checking, before you go out there and you get like a new software or like a new type of thing, that you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to really use that program. Make sure that you take a look at what you already have, your practice management, your EMR, even your marketing company. Many times they offer services related to lead tracking and lead management. And so what that would do, it would help you to have everything more streamlined, and then also save money and time. So just keep that in mind, and I think that you'll be in good shape. And if you have any questions, we're always here, to like help you, guide you. But it's something that we do get our clients kind of like in that routine, like on a schedule, to make sure that we're looking at the metrics, we're looking at the conversions, we're listening to some of these calls, and kind of like seeing how the patient care coordinators, how the directors of first impressions, how they're answering the calls, and how they're helping your patient or your prospective patient.
That's all wonderful, great stuff. I'll leave it with this message. One of my favorite shows is the Shark Tank. All right. I've actually seen every episode ever aired. All right. Because I've gone over them and I watch them again. And we spend so much money in our marketing to get a lead. Look, it is much less expensive to advertise to your own patient base, and referrals, always the best. However, when we go to market, whether it's social media, whether it's our website, whatever terms and forms of media that you use to bring that lead in, we have to close it. Because when you spend the same amount of money you're investing in that lead management, the greater the amount of leads lowers your actual physical cost of lead or client management. All right, lead acquisition costs and investments. Because one of the major questions that the sharks ask on the Shark Tank is, what was your cost of client slash patient acquisition? Very, very important. The more you close, the lesser the expense ratio is. So it's very, very important, because the most important part of it is the life cycle of a patient. Because when you've closed them for the thing that you've marketed them, how can we keep them coming back for more. That then becomes an extended life cycle. Ana Suarez, Cristian Devoz, thank you so much for being my special guest today on episode number 111 of Shorr Solutions, the podcast, how to effectively utilize a lead management tool. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, good luck and God bless. So that wraps up today's episode of Shorr Solutions, the podcast. If we mentioned any website links, you can find them in our show notes. To work directly with me and our award-winning team of consultants to increase efficiency, increase revenue, and decrease costs in your aesthetic practice, schedule a free consult with us today. We will help you establish and refine your aesthetic practice's protocols for maximum efficiency and productivity, decrease your expenses, and increase your profitability with an expert financial analysis of your business, attract more patients, convert calls to consults, convert consults to treatments, and keep patients coming back for more with our sales training, coaching, and complimentary access to our Conversion Cascade online course. Recruit, hire, and train new team members and manage any staff turnover with our human resource expertise, plus more. Head over to our show notes and click on the link to schedule a free 30-minute consult with us today. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to spread the word and share this episode with your friends, colleagues, and the rest of your team. Remember to also follow us on social media at Shorr Solutions and sign up for our e-newsletter. You'll learn about our latest tips, blog posts, services, videos, webinars, and more. Links to our social media channels and to sign up for our e-newsletter are in our show notes. So see you next time, and remember to leave us a review and subscribe for more valuable content.